I knew it was important to reach out when you were going through your exit, let's call it, and because I knew the pain of it and I knew the challenge of it. But I do believe that one of the lessons I've learned is you have to think about how other people are being affected by situations, especially once you have pain in your own life. It's all gotten so far removed from humanity that the idea that, I don't like that Tucker Carlson takes a bite out of my ass on his show on a regular basis.
I think you had a good reason not to like me. I think that would be fair.
But that means that this is not somebody who you should care about as a human being.
Of course, I couldn't agree with you more, which is why we're here. And I think both of us have tried to talk directly to people that we disagree with legitimately on some things, but because it's a really useful and important experience. So why doesn't it happen? It does make you kind of wonder, maybe there are forces trying to prevent those conversations, and what's the motive there?
We are not supposed to be doing this. I am doing something bad right now, not just wrong. This is bad.
Like morally bad.
I am giving a platform. That's the new word for censoring, right? I'm giving Tucker Carlson a platform. I'm talking to him about who he is and what he's about and why he does what he does. Why? He's bad. And that's the end of the analysis. But look where it's gotten us. Nobody talks to each other anymore. Everything is about silos and sides. And people will say, no, no, no. There's a line. And Tucker is and Tucker has crossed that line. And I will say, yeah, says who? Says you in the media who also cast me out?
The one way in which I really sympathize with you, and I said this in public at the time, is that you were attacked, and I don't know the details, I'm not going to ask you to reveal them, but felt like you were fired because you remained close to your brother, who was governor of New York, and he was going through a bunch of stuff. He left office, and you were still talking to him, and you weren't allowed to. And my take on it from a distance, knowing neither you nor your brother, was you got to stick with your brother. It's your brother. And that obligation supersedes all others because that's your family.
People feel differently about family, which was somewhat of a new concept for me.
In what way?
I had a big shot media person say to me in an interview on their platform, I would not have helped my brother. Not if it would have conflicted with my ethical obligations as a journalist.
Or your career ambitions is what they're really saying.
Well,
it's disgusting.
Either way. And I said, well, first of all, it didn't, because I didn't cover my brother's situation on my show. I've never had the audience give me a hard time until they started hearing things in the media that didn't square with what they had thought. For me, it was more, I got myself into a situation I didn't see coming. I didn't have any control over how getting fired happened. All I control is what I do next. But when I met you, you were not the way I was. You were ebullient. You were laughing, and you were, yeah, well, let me tell you, it was a favor to me. And this is going to be okay. I'm going to be fine. This is a weird world, and now I know things I didn't know before.
Yeah.
And I thought that that was a real blessing for you. What did you figure out that you didn't know before?
You know, I loved working there. I was there 14 years. They were always nice to me. So it's not an attack on them to say that I was hemmed in by the fact that I work for someone else. And that's just the nature of the relationship. No matter how free you think you are, part of you is assessing like, whoa, I actually am an employee. I do have a boss. And I knew that they disagreed with me on a bunch of big topics. And to their great credit, they never tried to change my view on those topics. But you aren't fully free if you work for someone else. Like, that's how I felt about it. And I just had reached this time in my life where I feel like there's all these really important things going on. I want to be as honest as I can possibly be at all times. And that was a hindrance to me. So I also had this kind of supernatural sense that everything's gonna be fine. And that in the end, you know, you die anyway. So what are you afraid of exactly? And I'd also done it for too long, too long, same gig. It's good to be, and I had been fired before a couple of times. So it's good to be fired because it brings you low and you don't become the overbearing asshole that every TV person is on some level. I mean, I already am that, but it kept it in check a little bit. A little public humiliation is really important for a man. I would recommend it to all men.
Everybody who I reached out to about you said, you know, he's changed. He's different because of this. And when I spoke to you recently, not in the beginning, but recently, you said, yeah, I'm not that guy anymore. What does that mean for you?
Well, it just, I mean, I don't think I was playing a role ever. I was definitely used by your former employer and mine, CNN, to flack for the Iraq War, and I allowed that without even really knowing it was happening, and I was always bitter about that in the way that you are when you've done something wrong. In other words, if you fight with your wife and it's 100% her fault, you're not that mad. But if it's really your fault, then you're extra mad because you're mad at yourself. And I've been mad at myself for 20 years over the things that I said and was pushed into saying, promoting the Iraq War, which is totally indefensible in my opinion. But other than that, I have always, I think, been myself. But you reach a stage in life where I don't feel like I have anything to prove, and I don't need to be nasty to people. I've done that. I have a PhD in it. You were probably the last person I was really, really nasty to. Sorry.
Yeah, you got an A in that class, you bastard.
So I don't go into things like I just talked to Putin, and everyone's like, you got to be rough on Putin. Actually, you're not my boss. I can do whatever I want. Yeah, I could go in there and tell Putin, you're a monster. Okay, what do we get out of that? So I can like prove that I'm a tough guy? I don't need to prove that. I'm not insecure about that, and I just want to hear people talk because I think it's interesting. I think it's important to hear people talk, and so I can kind of pull myself out of it more than I was able to before. If you're 31 and trying to make it in TV, you know, you're itching for a confrontation to show your skills. Like, I can win. And now it's like, nah, I've done that. I'm not interested in that. It's totally pointless. I don't elicit any interesting information. It's all about me and my performance. And I know you know what I'm talking about because you've lived the life, but there's a lot of pressure on you to make a moment. And now I'm just like, I've had a lot of moments. You can look them on YouTube if you want.
You know, you're tougher than I am. Not physically. I would literally twist you like a bandit. But you had more resilience about this than I did. I still feel like I'm on one knee and getting back up. And what motivated me to come back was, one, my wife told me I had to. Two, you know, she was like, you got to get up, and, you know, we got kids, you got to get up, you got to do something with your life that is helping people and making something of this place. Get up, do something with your life. Okay.
Was that your response? Okay.
My response was, get away from me and my bottle.
More Casamigos, please.
There's more. My response was that I was embarrassed, and I knew she was right. And another thing, you know, I was thinking when I was walking around outside, you know, you got security outside your house. And I was thinking to myself, God, I know what this is about. You know, and your kids are older, lucky for you, but they're still aware, they're still exposed. And I put my family through so much that I didn't understand that I was doing at the time because I had blinders on. I wasn't thinking that my son was having to deal with stuff. My daughter making up accounts online to defend her uncle. Killed me. My wife. So dealing with all those things, and it's fine.
First of all, good for her.
No, they're good kids. They're good kids. I'm going to talk to who I want about what I want. I'm going to focus on what I think matters. And I'm not playing the game. I'm only going to expose the game.
So what's the worst thing you've ever done?
The worst thing I've ever done was to forget what I'm supposed to be about. I have an amazing ability to repeat mistakes.
Been there.
I hate myself for it. And all I can do is to try to be different now, make different choices now. Like, I don't pick fights the way I used to. I believed that my value at the time on CNN was, I'm going to bring on Tucker Carlson. He's a smart guy. He's practiced on what he is. I'm going to take him apart tonight. Not gratuitously, but I'm going to take him on his own basis. I want him at his best. Whatever his best argument is, let's have him on and let's get after it. I don't do that the same way anymore.
So how could you possibly be upset about being fired? I mean, this sounds like, this is not flattery, it's sincere. That sounds like a much more enlightened view of the world, a truer view of the world than the view that cable news encourages. That's a good thing, isn't it?
Look, again, bad things happen. You get an opportunity, what to do with them. I'm choosing to try to create a better professional mode for myself. But I can't look at what happened to me and not see injury. My name right now is Chris Cuomo. I'm okay with that. Comma, fired by CNN. I accept that. That's a fact. Comma, for lying about what he did to help his brother. That is not true, and it cannot stand. And I cannot have my kids have to deal with that as a Google search of me. It's not true, and the people who said it know it's not true.
You know, I always used to, maybe I'm the one who grew up in the mafia family, because I just don't see that.
I didn't grow up in a mafia family.
I'm just joking. I
just want to take your head and squeeze it.
No.
Is that wrong? Is that evil?
It's a little wrong. But I'll accept it. But I just don't, look, lying is bad. It's always bad. Lying is always bad. But doing whatever you can to help your family, again, it's just a hierarchy of loyalty. And anyone who tells you that you have, except to God, a higher loyalty than to your own family, that's your enemy. No, your loyalty is to your family, okay? Period. So I don't, you say you didn't lie, I actually completely believe you. But if I found out that you did lie, I wouldn't judge you. It's your brother. I mean, like, what?
I think it matters.
If your brother was on the run and he said, "Can you give me $500 for a fake passport?" In a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel. So, like, how is that a sin?
I don't know if it's a sin. I don't know if it's right. I don't know if it's wrong. I'm just telling you that's the way I am. You're getting my head on why it was me.
Yeah.
Why do you think it was you?
I mean, strictly speaking, I have no idea. I've never been told. I've heard a lot of people throw around theories, but I don't know which are true. And I don't really care. But more broadly, I understand why. It's called destiny. Your life has an arc and a path, and you don't know what it is, but you can feel it, happen.
But you didn't say, why me? What about all these other people?
No, I felt like this was always going to happen. It doesn't, I was shocked for like 3 minutes, but that was it. Well, I talked to you right after, I think, within a couple days. And so I'm almost never really shocked by anything that happens, but that I just immediately saw the upside, and because I wasn't mad. And I wasn't mad, actually. And
are you on medication?
I don't take Advil, like even
really?
Advil.
So this is just you.
Oh, you'll never meet anyone who's more opposed to pills than I am, or
really?
any intoxicants of any kind other than nicotine and coffee. That's it.
That's where our roads diverge.
Dude,
I am about better life through chemistry.
No, I don't take anything ever, like ever. In fact, I had a back spasm yesterday. I've had back surgery and it hurt. I was like, I'm not taking Advil. No, I'm just totally opposed to that. That's a whole other conversation. But yeah, I'm with, who's that weird actor in Scientology? I can't remember. Tom Cruise.
You had to reach for Tom Cruise's name?
I couldn't.
He didn't just.
I'm sorry, I couldn't remember. But he gave some speech on TV a few years ago, or several years ago, 10 years ago, about how SSRIs and all that stuff is evil. And everyone's like, he's crazy. But I was like the only person. It's like, you go, Tom Cruise.
You were on the wrong side of that.
No, dude, I'm all about that. Anyway, no, I really felt that it was destiny, as I feel that most things are. I think there is a plan.
I watched a lot of your stuff for this, and it's a different vibe, Tucker. Yeah. I mean, look, if we had been in more contact before you did the Putin interview, I would have told you, you got to check some boxes with this guy. I get why you're going to say, I'm not going to get there and get into a fight with a guy who may not let me out of the country.
Yeah. No. I was never afraid. I was afraid of the U.S. government, not of Putin at all.
Of them doing what?
Arresting me when I got back for a sanctions violation. That's what my lawyers told me. If you go talk to Putin, and if you don't ask him tough questions, the Biden administration very easily arrests you. There's a big law firm told me that, a big law firm, one of the biggest law firms.
But how bullshit is that?
I thought it was, and I was like, I don't care. I'm an American citizen. I'm going anyway.
I don't disagree that sitting across from Putin and getting into a shouting match or whatever is going to bear much fruit for people. I understand that. And I get that it's a commodity in the media, but I get that it may not be the highest good.
Well, it's also just vanity. It's vanity.
There is an aspect of it. But you made choices. Like, you didn't ask him about Navalny. You said, well, all killers, all leaders kill. But don't you feel that if you are going to go and sit with someone like that, you have to hold them to account for things that matter? Like
I did.
The fact that he may have murdered somebody or a lot of people?
Well, I don't. I mean, the Ukrainians say that he didn't kill Navalny, so I think it's. I think.
Well, who killed him then? Guy looks good 1 minute, and the next minute he's dead.
I mean, in some larger sense, the Russian government.
And what Ukrainians say they don't. Zelensky says he killed him.
No, he doesn't. No, the Ukrainian government said, no, he died of natural causes. Now, what is actually going on there? I can't even guess, okay? Navalny died in the middle of the Munich Security Conference, also in the middle of the debate over Ukraine funding in the United States, and his death was within hours used by the President of the United States to justify another $60 billion. So those are just facts. I haven't the faintest idea. Putin put him in prison, okay? So there's that. So in some sense,
poisoned him.
He's responsible. Look, here's what I learned, and I'm hardly a Russia expert, is this is an extremely complicated political environment, extremely, like next level, okay? These are the people who dominate world chess. And so their politics are incomprehensible to me. So what's actually happening, and I've been in a lot of countries and covered a lot of stuff abroad, and the one thing I've learned is you actually don't really know what's going on. And so I had a bunch of Navalny questions to answer your question in my 4,700 questions that I'd written out. And I decided on the fly not to ask it because I felt like, what about Navalny? Well, whatever he's going to say, I'm not going to move the ball at all. There's a war going on that is resetting the world. I'm not for throwing your political opponents in prison. I hate it. I'm mad that the Biden administration is now doing it. I'm worried about it happening to me. I mean, honestly, I want to get that on the record. So I'm not for that in any sense. I don't choose to live in Russia. I'm not a Putin supporter. But there's a war going on, and it's crushing the United States economy. And most Americans don't understand that. And I want to talk about that. And so I made that decision.
It's crushing the economy. It's not crushing the war economy, though. A lot of that money winds up coming back
small number
to
of
the
people
uniparty, the corporations
rich.
that do
No,
that.
I totally agree. But
they always find a way to win.
Kicking Russia out of SWIFT, stealing people's stuff, the oligarch stuff, a lot of people had nothing to do with the invasion of Ukraine. That's not the rules-based order, actually. That's the hardest-edged possible politics being played by the U.S. government using the U.S. dollar and the sanctions regimes to do it. What is the message to the rest of the world? Get the hell away from the United States. These people, if they elect somebody who's senile like Biden or someone who doesn't like us, they will use the dollar and sanctions to destroy us. Get away. It's not a safe haven anymore. And so that fact will change world history, change the course of American history. We're going to live with that for the rest of our lives. Our grandchildren will live with it. I don't think Americans understand that, and I want them to. And I want to hear what Putin's thinking is. And I don't know if I achieved that or not, but that was definitely. But what I didn't want to do is try to convince other journalists, for whom I have no regard at all, for the most part, that I'm a good person. I don't care what they think of me. They call me a Nazi all the time, which I'm not. So, their views are totally immaterial. I just want to focus on what I want to focus on, and if you don't like it, don't watch it. That's kind of my view.
The first blush of it was Carlson doesn't get to interview Putin. That I absolutely disagreed with, and in fact, as much as it pained me, I defended that proposition that of course, Tucker Carlson, if you can book Putin, he can interview Putin. That's how it works in our business. If you can get him, you can do the interview. Why Putin chooses Tucker Carlson, what Tucker does with the interview, we'll judge when he does it.
I was abroad, not kind of obsessively following the coverage of myself. I don't have a Google alert.
They didn't want you to do it because they thought that you would be a stooge for Putin. And then you showed up in Moscow.
They won't even be here in 5 years. None of these people,
but
John Carl,
but you made it easy.
People, they'll all be gone.
But you make it easy for them. You show up in Moscow, you say, this is the best place I've ever been in my life. This city is better than anywhere in America.
It is.
Get out of here. On what basis?
It's so much better. On the basis that I described.
There are people making no money. That's why the prices are cheap.
Yeah. Well, actually, look, I'm no expert on the Russian economy. I can only tell you what I saw, which is a city of 13 million people, much larger than any city we have. Hard to govern a city like that. And there is, no homelessness, no graffiti. It's spotlessly clean. The public spaces are beautiful. Look, Moscow, I'm not moving to Moscow. I'm an American. I'm never leaving. But Moscow is not so different from the cities of the United States in my youth. We had a free society, much freer than we have today. We had much more capitalism, free markets, fewer monopolies.
But you're not saying Moscow was a free society.
I'm saying the United States was a free society.
Okay.
The country that I grew up in had a semi-functioning capitalist system with competition. It wasn't all like 4 companies dominating everything, which is what we have now. That's not capitalism, okay? That's a monopoly economy, which is bad. And you had freedom of speech. I guess there were probably some limits, but I wasn't aware of what they were because they were so broad. And you had safe, for the most part, clean cities. And that's exactly what Moscow is. This does not make me love Putin. It makes me despise our leaders. And so I try to make this point. I don't think it's super subtle or esoteric or complex, but they're like, oh, tool of Putin. No. You are flacking for the indefensible. That's what's actually happening here.
So for you, it's not Putin's better, Russia's better. It's that it gave you perspective on what you think has changed in America for the worse.
Of course. I look at
It's not how it came across.
I'm sure, and I'm sure it was at least in part due to my inability to explain it fully, which has been a problem all my life. It's incumbent on me to explain things. That's my job. And I don't always succeed. So I'm willing to believe that. But it's also a product of intentional distortion of what I'm saying. And which is, this is an indictment of our leadership class, which deserves to be indicted and imprisoned, in my opinion. So all my views are through an American lens. I've got a big family. I'm not leaving. My family's been here for hundreds of years. I'm not going anywhere. I'm the most American person you've ever met. Don't have another passport, unlike a lot of other people. And so I'm stuck here by choice and circumstance, and I want my country to be as great as it can possibly be. And that's why I opposed the Ukraine war from day one. This is not going to help us, period. And they're like, oh, tool of Putin. It's like, no, tool of America. That's what I want to be.
What about the argument that they make that if you allow Russia to exercise reach, it'll keep doing it?
I would say, show me the evidence. I would say, show me the evidence. The Soviet,
started in Crimea. Now they're taking at least half of it.
They had a referendum in Crimea where they asked the overwhelmingly, like 90% Russian population of Crimea, do you want to be part of Ukraine after the coup of 2014, or do you want to be part of Russia? And they said Russia. So that's the democratic process, I would say there.
Right, but you don't change sovereignty over what the popular vote is. Like, you know, like.
Well, it depends how committed to democracy you are. Democracy is the promise of self-government.
But if where we are right now decided it wanted to be its own state, they don't get to just go.
No, because
right? You have a constitution, you have larger ideals involved.
Sure, but as a matter of principle and practice, if you're committed to democracy, you should let people choose how they seek to be governed. What I care about is the country that I live in. We imperil our own national security on behalf of other countries. That's why we're in NATO. We have a security guarantee with Macedonia? What? I didn't sign up for that. That's not in the Constitution. I want my kids to die for Macedonia? No.
But their rationale is an extension of collective strength. I don't have any problem with you owning any of these opinions that you do.
Well,
I can have my own. I can have my own opinion about the level of sufficiency of your reasoning. But
I think you'd find it unimpeachable.
It's that. Oh, it's definitely not unimpeachable. What do I mean to you when it comes to COVID that bothered you about the coverage or the reality or any of it?
I was completely opposed to, from the very first day, the idea that you can restrict people's freedom of movement or force them into taking any medical treatment of any kind, period. And I am strongly, and have been really my whole adult life, opposed to abortion, which I think is killing. It is killing. However, the one abortion slogan I always liked was "My body, my choice." I thought that was a good argument. I don't think it's actually your body, so you know, I don't think it's a rational argument if you think it through. But as a slogan, I totally believe it's "My body, my choice." And the "My body, my choice" people are like, actually, no, it's not your body or your choice. It's my body and my choice, and you're going to do this, or we're going to hurt you. And I'm just completely opposed to that. And so anybody who seemed to be endorsing it as you did, I was like completely opposed to that.
I see reproductive rights differently. And I do think that it was a very dangerous, politically, it's an easy analysis of the dog catching the car and getting rid of Roe v. Wade. Now you have it state by state. You have this IVF thing that happens in Alabama. You're going to have a lot of crazy stuff happen now, and women are going to have to pay the price for it. But here's where I was coming from on COVID. The government says this is what we have to do. And there are similar practices going on around the world. I understand the restriction argument, but why was it wrong for me to say, this is what they're telling us to do? And Clearly, it's imperfect. All of their answers are imperfect. They don't know what's happening right now. This is a first. But isn't that the job? Is that this is what they're saying? Here's their explanation.
Yes, but
asking questions about it.
that's part of the job.
But I wasn't like pro-vaccine or pro-mask. I'm the guy who got busted in the New York Post because I took a run without a mask on, walked back in my lobby, and somebody ratted on me, and then I became a hypocrite. I want you to wear a mask, but I'm not. Not when I'm taking a run. I'm coming back into my apartment building. I'm sweaty.
Look, I get it. I didn't wear a mask.
You came after me for that.
At all. I did, and I'll tell you why.
Please.
I didn't wear a mask at all. And that's one attack that I will not walk back because I think it's fair. I didn't wear a mask, and when told to do it on airplanes, I always punched a hole through it.
Out of spite?
No, because I couldn't breathe. Otherwise, I can't get the cigarette in there if there's a...
Yeah, that's right.
Just kidding. But no. I quit smoking by then, but I couldn't breathe, and it's not good not to get oxygen. I believe in sunshine and air. My wife and I have not slept with our door closed in, many, many years. No matter what the climate, we sleep with the door open because we believe in fresh air. And so I believe that, and no one's going to keep me from getting fresh air, sorry. So, but if it's true that you must wear your mask at all times, then you must wear your mask at all times, whether it's inconvenient or not. Don't go for a run.
It wasn't all times. It was a social distancing thing. And I had been jogging.
But people are getting arrested on the beach alone.
I understand that it went too far. What I didn't understand, I totally get it. And I feel the same way about the vaccine and what was understood and not understood.
Wait, but can I just ask you one question that really was the pivot point for me when I realized these people are liars, and it's my job not to affirm what they say, but to question and to challenge them, no matter what they call me. And they called me a murderer and all that. But when the BLM riots happened, and public health officials said it's okay because fighting systemic racism, which they never defined, despite my requests, is more important than shielding people from COVID. And I'm like, you may think that as a political matter, but as an epidemiological matter, you've just revealed that you're a freaking quack. And you don't give a shit about public health because you were just telling me that this is not allowed except when it's a militia helping you. You're an evil person. That was like my initial, and no one ever explained to me how it's okay to infect people with COVID as long as they're challenging Donald Trump.
I understand the argument. I guess the way I was watching it in real time is, well, they can't control if it's a protest, it's one thing, and you can have rules, but do you really want to go arresting your way into a crowd of people who are already outraged by something? Let alone as if it becomes...
On the beach,
I know,
surfing.
But people, look, and I don't like that. And I didn't like it then, I never said I did.
If a bunch of Nazis came out in the early summer of 2020 and said, we're Nazis, we're...
I don't think they would go mask arresting, although a lot of those guys do wear masks. To hide their identity.
Are you kidding?
I don't
they
think they
would get mowed down. I mean,
I just think it would be too dangerous. I still want to know why you came after me as much as you did.
Because I'm a dick, probably. Because it was easy. Because I don't like CNN, and I really mean that in my heart of hearts. I really just don't.
But why me?
I don't know.
How can you not know? It was so intentional. It was so frequent.
Because people kept sending me videos from Instagram.
You.
It was me.
It was you.
I sent him the first video, and then he was mesmerized.
Well, what was wrong with me lifting weights? You're an outdoorsman.
I just couldn't. If you've ever watched Chris Cuomo over on CNN, you may have wondered, how'd this guy get a TV show? Chris Cuomo really gets the credit he deserves for being the single dumbest person ever to perform on cable news. You know, you got to feel for the guy. We're mocking him, but let's take this to a deeper, more human level. Imagine being him. It was me taking the cheap shots, which I'm not always above. And but you should be. You should be above that.
Did it feel good when you would come after me like that?
Felt a little dirty. Felt a little dirty.
Dirty good or dirty dirty?
You know, I'm not really a dirty good guy. You know what I mean?
Because you enjoy it. Let me tell you, there was no shame in your game.
Room. No, I guess cameras aren't picking up all the people sitting here. But I mean, in the sense that, you know, I don't want to use any kind of sexual metaphor, but there is one for this. It's like something you shouldn't be doing, but there's kind of the animal thrill of doing something wrong, I guess is what I would say.
You loved it. You loved it, and it worked for you.
But I will say this.
And my in-laws watch you. Do you know how hard it is to deal with having your in-laws enjoy a joke that makes you want to, do bad things that are going to cost you civil litigation money? And
somebody did say, Chris Cuomo's a lot bigger than you. Maybe you should be careful. I just couldn't, I have weaknesses. I will say I don't think I have a weakness for women. I gave up drinking many years ago, but I'm still beset by the weaknesses of the flesh, and one of them is mockery. I just can't help it. And my wife, I will say, who we were just with, who's an unusually good person, and would always say, I don't like it when you're mean. You're not a mean person. You shouldn't be mean. Oh. And I'm very dependent on my wife's approval. Like, I'm totally happy to admit that. And she never criticizes me, but she, in a gentle way, like, I don't like it when you're mean. That's not who you are. It's kind of who I am. That's the problem.